Inzer Advanced Designs, the world leader in powerlifting apparel, presents the Rage X. The Rage X is helping powerlifters sweep the earth with massive bench presses. Extra reinforced front shoulder seams add support to the radical, thicker, extra reinforced neck. Absolutely guaranteed you will bench more with the Rage X than any other bench press shirt on the market today. Prove it on 1,000-pound bench presses. Get yours today. Check us out on the web at www.inzernet.com.
Okay, folks, welcome to Big Evil's Lair, and with me I have world super heavyweight powerlifting champion Brian Siders. Here's some of Brian's stats. These are IPF world records and USAPL world records. His biggest squat in a meet is 1019. His biggest bench in a meet is 804. Biggest deadlift 865, and a world record IPF total 2651 at 336-pound body weight. Brian is also a world champion strongman. We're going to get into that. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about your history, where you're from, a little bit about your family, just, basics about Brian Siders.
Well, I grew up in a small town outside of Charleston, West Virginia. I had probably about 1,000 people in it. I now live in Charleston, which is a little bit bigger. I started training for powerlifting, like most people. I started for playing other sports, playing football. I threw shot put and discus. I didn't really focus a lot. As I started getting stronger, I started competing in bench press only contests my junior year of high school, and I think right around my senior year I did my first full powerlifting contest. So as I got better at that, I just enjoyed that a lot more.
Now, where do you train at now?
I now train mainly in my garage that I built a few years ago by my house.
Okay.
I have all the basics. I have obviously a lot of weights, several benches. I have a self-spotting or self-lift-off bench for lighter workouts if I'm alone. I have some ER type equipment, a rack and bench combo rack. So I have a platform where I deadlift, and I have a separate squat rack. I've always done my squats. I have a few basic machines, a cable crossover, use a pulley for other things.
Now,
pull down, chin up bar, sit up bench, adjustable benches, power rack, a few dumbbells.
Right.
Assortment of bars.
I'm seeing a lot of powerlifters actually doing the same thing. They're putting power holes together, and they're getting some buddies together. And they're training. I mean, I'm sure you have a few training partners that are consistent. You train with.
Yeah, I mean, I have my work schedule's recently changed the last few months, but I've got about 12 guys that come there off and on. And unfortunately, I usually don't get started with my workouts around 8 in the evening or sometimes later. So a lot of those guys are usually finishing up by the time I get there. But
okay.
For my main days, where I really need help, there's always someone there when I need them.
Now, tell me, what are you doing for a living now as far as your profession?
I'm a correctional psychologist. I work in a maximum security prison on a mental health unit. I basically oversee how their lives are managed and the kind of quality of living they go through, and I do their psychological testing and whatnot on our unit. So.
Okay. Now, what got you into powerlifting? You said just the sports, aspect, training for sports. That's basically it.
Yeah, but even when I was younger, like I would see, you would hardly ever see anything like that on TV. But if you did, it always caught my attention. I always thought of my dad as being a big, strong guy. So he was bigger than I am. I mean, in a lot of ways, he was taller. He was kind of my hero, I guess, when I was a kid. So the idea of strength always seemed appealing to me. So
How does the strongman affect your powerlifting training, or the vice versa? Like, how does your powerlifting affect your strongman training? Because I know that, I never really dabbled too much in the strongman stuff, but I would imagine they would have to affect each other. Or do you feel they enhance each other, or do you
they
feel?
can, but if you do one or the other too long, you're going to start specializing more in one or the other. But to be a good strongman, you have to have certain strengths. Unless you, depending on your leverages and building. I mean, most people that compete in strongman are good deadlifters. They're good pressers. Maybe not with the bench press, but good in overhead press.
Do you think the strongman thing, like, does it affect your bench press, like where it hurts it? You think, or just,
It seems like my raw strength can benefit from it, but I mean, as far as if I was training for a contest if you wear equipment, everything's so specific. If you focus on more of one thing, you're just going to get better at that. And whenever you kind of let go, you're not so good at it. So it's just, so if I'm focusing on a contest where I wear a bench shirt, then everything else is kind of on the back burner.
Let's talk about, your training and your powerlifting. How do you break up your training days, Brian?
There are some days that I do more full body stuff for a period of time, and then but usually as I get closer to a contest, every day has like a priority. So basically taking every training idea and try to find something from it that's made me improve. Whether or not, I've tried probably everything as is also over the years, maybe not so much in the last 5 or 6 years, because I got to a point to where I've had to realize that so much volume works for me, and if I cut that out, I seem to lose more than a lot of other people would, where they would train at a lesser volume and still make increases on their lifts or whatnot.
So, like your breakup of days, like, do you have, like, how many days a week do you train? Like, just say.
I usually train 6 or 7 days.
Wow. And so, like, for example, in your squat, how would you train your squat?
Basically, if I'm training for just a standard contest, I would have one day where my goal is to focus on the heavy. It's kind of like a max effort day or a heavy day or whatever, but
okay.
I'm using equipment that I would be required to use for the contest. I would suit, straps, and I would work up to. I would have a goal weight, and I would have like goal weights planned for 10 weeks or so before the contest, and it may be sets of 5, and it may go to sets of 3, and this could change,
So do you
contest depending on how I trained for the contest before.
So do you have a general like rep scheme, like, so many weeks out you're doing 5s and then 3s and 2s and a single?
Usually.
Okay.
If I also assess everything every week. If something isn't going well, then I have to find a way to change it to make it better.
Okay.
So, but I don't just base it on one workout. I mean, I can, I've done it long enough to know when something's not right.
Okay. Now, what are some of your favorite assistance exercises for the squat?
Probably good morning, Romanian deadlifts, close stand squats, which I don't squat all that wide anyways, obviously, but I go a little bit closer than, I haven't done as many box squats the last couple of years that I used to do, but, and it seems that I've had less hip pain, so I don't know. I mean, I think with my stance, I don't know if box squats are going to really help my squat a whole lot. But I do use them for assistance work on occasion, but I'm just focused primarily on the squat itself. I mean, I'll do a few glute ham raises here and there. 45 degree hypers are one of my favorites. And I also squat deadlifts in the same day usually if I have my heavy training day like that. So I'll deadlift my target weight also in the same day.
Okay.
And I'll do assistance work after that.
So you squat first, then deadlift, and then you do your assistance after?
Yeah. Actually, I have 2 other days. I mean, I usually squat deadlift 3 times before a contest.
Okay, you're saying
Yeah,
3 times a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other days won't be a cliff. I mean, I may wear loose suit, bottoms,
Hmm.
but I don't. It's more volume stuff and more.
Your bench training. How you train your bench.
I usually have 3 or 4 days a week that are dedicated towards pressing. 2 of them may be flat bench workouts
Hmm.
that are basically the competition grip that I would use. Another day may be like a day where I focus more on triceps. Another day may be all overhead stuff.
Okay. Now, I've heard some crazy stories about some of your pressing movements, like some really ridiculously crazy numbers. Tell me a little bit about your assistance work in your bench with some of your pressing and some of the numbers you've done. Tell me a little bit about some of your assistance work for the bench press and some of the numbers you've done.
I don't do a lot of skull crushers. All of my extensions that I do now are usually for either with rubber bands or on a machine, and they're for higher reps, like just to flush blood into the joint and elbow.
Mm-hmm.
I will do like a modified close grip bench. For me, it's kind of like a skull crusher, but even with that, I don't even go a lot of times past 225, and I just try to focus on the full range of motion and get a bunch of blood in my triceps. As far as, the compound movements, I like going pretty heavy with close grip benches. Last Sunday, after I did a pretty decent bench workout, I did like 4 sets of 10 with 415 on the close grip bench. I've done in the low 500s for 5 close grip bench.
Tell me a little bit about your bench scheme. Like, let's say you're getting ready for a meet in 10 weeks. How do you, break it down with some of your favorite assistants? I know you talked about some close grip. Do you do boards and stuff, or do you really?
Yeah, I do boards, but I mainly do them all. I don't do hardly any boards with a shirt on. If I'm training for a shirt, a contest where I wear a bench shirt, I'll wear the shirt sometimes twice a week, but usually once a week. And I have basically 3 different size shirts. One, the middle shirt and tightness is what I would open up in. The tighter shirt is what I would take like a third attempts on with. And the shirt that's the most loose, I just consider it a training shirt, and I can actually do reps in it. So what I'll do is like maybe the first shirt workout, I'll take like 80% of my shirt of max and do 6 doubles or 5 triples with it, and I don't use boards, and I try to, even with the loose shirt, that weight can be tricky to touch with at first in my groove, so the first set may not even touch my chest, and then I notice, after a couple of sets, it starts working in better, and I get to where all the reps touch my chest. So if I just use boards, I wouldn't be able to increase the range of motion as I needed. So I try to, if it doesn't touch, I basically kind of hold it in that bubble, kind of like I'm on a board, but I'm still holding the weight.
Right.
And then I explode back up.
Okay. Now, boards, and what are some of the other assistance exercises that you do for bench, like more specific? Close grips, you said?
Close grips, a good bit of bands or chains, but I may not go so heavy on those. I will do those like after I take my shirt off. I may do like 3 sets of 10 with bands for like a finisher. It's like a lightweight with more band tension that have like half my all max. And, try to, it's still taxing, but it's just not,
Right.
It's not the same as handling, my workouts are long. I mean, I usually do 3 to 6 core exercises. By core, I mean exercises that mimic the actual competition lift in a workout. So, I mean...
So the meat and potatoes you do is just like, that's what it is. I mean, you're doing the lifts that mimic, what you're doing in the meet. So you practice like you play, pretty much is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.